And we are live. Hi, welcome to the Stephen David Live special U.S. political edition. I'm just kidding. Here with mindful Matt, so mindful that we're going to tiptoe around politics. We're not going to dive too deep into it, but I do want to talk about it a little bit because what's going on in the United States is just a fantastic example of polarity and law of attraction, which is what we talk about all the time, and we're seeing it play out before our eyes. And you're in Hong Kong.
Yep, I am.
You're still aware that we had an election here, and we're in the middle of it.
Oh man, the whole world is aware.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny because when you live in the United States, you know, we exist in this bubble where we just think the whole world revolves around us, and then we find out that it actually does. So.
Well, in this case, it does.
Yes, I know. Okay.
Yeah, the only other superpower in the world doesn't have elections, so you know.
Yeah, well, we're the only free country, right? I was raised around a lot of people that thought that. In the South of the United States, it's very much we're it. Everything else is communist, and we're free.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, that was very, very prevalent thinking. Then I grew up. Then got out into the world and realized, okay, there's other places than just this. That's okay. And that's not because if the whole thing falls apart in the United States, I'm very comfortable that I could just go live somewhere else.
Yeah, and actually, fun fact: the largest and most successful democracy in the world is in India, where they have 1 billion people who have the possibility of voting. So if you think it's chaotic for 340 million, imagine 3 times that.
Yeah. And how many? You're frozen. Yeah. Oh, that was kind of a creepy face that you're frozen.
Yeah. Sorry, internet problems.
Yeah. My computer. I think it's my computer, not my internet. I think it's time for to manifest a new Mac.
A new machine.
Yeah, I think so. You know, the bottom is falling off of mine, so maybe it's time to get a new. I've got this thing so souped up with external hard drives and stuff. It's so not what it was meant to be that I'm sure that I've nearly blown it up. So almost 3 terabytes of storage that I'm using right now.
Wow. Yeah, that's
huge. All the videos, I save a lot of video and stuff like that because I do video all day long in my business, in my world. So and I love doing video. I like to ham it up on video, so why not, right?
Yeah, video is great.
Yeah. Hi, Mike and Monique and Greg, and hi, Carrie.
Oh, yeah, hi, guys.
All of you on. If you're watching right now, and I see lots of people logging on, say hi.
Hi, Carrie. How y'all doing? I was teasing Carrie.
Well, it's so funny because she lives in Texas, but she's not really from Texas, so her accent is not that thick. It's just a little bit.
Yeah.
If you want to hear a thick Texas accent, talk to my family.
Oh, really?
Me. Yeah. I noticed my ad on the radio show the other day. I get real thick in that ad. /Tide.com. I sound I sound really Southern all of a sudden. I do sometimes. Hi, Cecilia. We're going to get rolling in a moment. We are going to talk about politics a little bit, but we're not going to talk about candidates. We're going to talk more about the law of attraction. We're going to talk more about spiritual stuff and the spiritual aspect of what we see playing out in the election, which I think is very fascinating, and in things of that nature. This is a special edition. I decided it was a good night to have a special edition because anxiety can be very high right now, not only in the United States, but across the planet because of our little election that we're having here. And I went on live last night in the Facebook group and just talked a little bit about the fact, if you're really concerned about the outcome of the election, here's my thoughts on this, because I've lived through elections where I thought the person that was elected had an agenda that was against me, that was anti-me. And I decided not to give that any power. And sure enough, it ended up being a fantastic period of my life. And since then, I have not given any power to who wins an election of any kind. And that has been the outcome of my life. And so that's really what I want to focus on for everybody. You can get into, I think politics is fascinating. I like to talk about politics. I was on the LOA Today show yesterday, and Walt, the host of that show, he was a political science major, and he is a political junkie, if you will. I see him posting these, political electoral maps and stuff like that on Facebook all the time. So he's really into it. So he and I had an hour-long conversation about politics and LOA and how law of attraction plays out with all of that. And we can go even deeper into that in this episode, and more so than just me talking about it. We can bring the stream in and talk about it. They voted. No, I'm kidding. And they're an XYZ supporter, not an ABC supporter. Let me tell you, no, that's not true at all.
Well, technically they voted, 140 million times, right? Because if they're in each of us, every time someone voted, they had that experience.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, channeling the stream, I feel that vibe of non-judgment. And that's so opposite of how our egos operate, right? So when I get into that stream vibe and see the world through that lens of non-judgment, that's where I came up with the term zooming out. Because I think that we can all get there. We can all get to that place of, wait a minute, before I go down my spiral about this, let me zoom out and think about this from a higher perspective, because that higher perspective is in all of us. And we can zoom in and come into what a lot of people call this 3D and 5D.
Yeah.
The 5D thing, I've heard so many different versions of that. And I hear some people say that they live in 5D, they're not in 3D, or they're in 12D, and then it becomes this, dog and pony thing, oh, I'm in 13D if you're in 12D, and it's this dogmatic thing all of a sudden. And I just like the general term of zooming out. Higher perspective, we all have access to it. And the higher perspective is very easy to find if you remove fear and judgment. When you remove fear and judgment, you are in a higher perspective. And removing judgment is not about removing preference, because obviously we're all about preference. And the thing that the stream really enlightened me about was we're not all here to have the same preference, because we're not all here to have the same experience. That variety and that desire for variety is actually a key driver of universal creation. If that makes sense. That if we all came and just wanted one thing and our version of one thing, then we would all just agree about everything. There would be no contrast. There would be no new creation.
Well, that's our completed state, really, isn't it?
Yeah. We're like that when we're dead. I could joke and say that, if that's what you want, if you want perfection, if you just want to agree with everybody, if you want utopia, that's death. But we didn't come here to just experience death on earth. We came here to experience life on earth. And life is contrast. Life is not always agreeing with each other. But all of this insanity that we see, especially on Facebook, of people, our mutual friend and mutual Taya master, I like to call all of you, Cat Wonders, she posted something the other day on Facebook that said, all it said was, hey, we can disagree about politics and still be friends. Very light. That was all it said. Man, 199 comments later, people unfriended her, people called her names. I mean, it just went crazy, and just scrolling through these comments was just like, good Lord, people are really, really letting themselves be divided over this. And there's different points of view. And the nice thing about maintaining the friendships, even when you don't agree, is coming to understand their point of view. Yeah. Being tolerant of one another, having some empathy for, okay, I didn't, I see it like this, but you see it like that. And I can kind of understand, even though I don't agree with it, I kind of understand where you're coming from. And you've maintained a friendship which has value.
Yeah, there's a huge.
Go ahead.
I mean, a definition of higher intelligence, or a definition of intelligence, is be able to hold two opposing views in your mind. I can understand, how hot that is, and I can understand how cold that is, and I prefer one over the other, but I can fully appreciate both without feeling like just my understanding of it equals my endorsement of it.
Yeah.
And that's what adults do. Adults can have conversations about things they don't agree with and talk about the topic without thinking that just the fact that we're talking about politics means that we agree about politics.
Yeah, well, and I heard something a long time ago that I've always loved. Hi, Jillian. Hi, Spirit of the Trees. Namaste.
Yeah, hi, Spirit.
Is that if two people agree on everything, only one person's doing the thinking.
Yeah.
I love that because it's true. We can't always just agree on everything all the time. We're all independent souls. We're all independent consciousness. We're independent egos. And we're all having our own independent experience. And if we're waiting for someone else to tell us what we're supposed to think, and I live in a community that is very affected that way.
Yeah.
I live in a community where everybody is kind of the same. And and the interesting thing is that everybody's kind of the same. And I have been told and experienced that if you don't agree with this exact set of political beliefs, you will be ostracized from this community.
Yeah.
I see it in play, and it's crazy. And now
that's not a community, that's a dictatorship.
Yeah, and that's what it feels like sometimes. And that's why I'm looking at property in Texas now. Go back to my home state for multiple reasons. But I love Southern California. Don't get me wrong, I love Southern California. But the community of Palm Springs can be very narrow-minded. It's I grew up in a small town that everybody had to believe one way or you were ostracized in that small town.
Yeah.
But there were charming things that I really loved about it too, to this day. And I left the small town. I lived in cities my entire adult life, medium-sized to large cities, ending up in San Francisco, my entire adult life in cities. And finally, when I was able to live wherever I wanted to live, I chose to move back to a small town of people who were a lot like me.
Yeah.
Mostly upper middle class to wealthy gay men, mostly white. That's just what Palm Springs is. I'm very honest on the show. I mean, maybe too much sometimes, but it's very liberal. And I'm not specifically one way or another. I'm very, unique in my thinking about things. And I see people right now, living in multi-million-dollar homes, living off investment portfolios, freaking out about the election. And I know they're going to be fine one way or the other because both parties are going to take care of them because that's the way our system is set up. So it's just interesting to see people losing their minds over this idea of this election and that it's got so much power, but really it doesn't, especially for this group of people. And that is really baffling to me how much power we give to that. Yeah. And it doesn't really have to impact our lives much at all. I totally believe we decide how much influence it has over us.
Absolutely. And look, very honestly, very often whoever's in power doesn't really shift the dial that much on stuff.
No.
So
what I found is that none of them really do what they say they're going to do. They talk about doing stuff and make a lot of promises, then they get in and do certain things. But a lot of times the big promises that are made that are more emotional don't happen. But they realize people vote on emotion, at least in the United States. You were joking, you were kind of making fun of us yesterday, saying, you guys, it's a big popularity contest. It's true. If it weren't true, I wouldn't say it. It's very true. That it's not necessarily about who's the most qualified, it's who's the most popular. To me, it's always the person that's the most charismatic.
Yeah.
Look at the most charismatic one, and that's who the winner's going to be.
Yeah.
Because
especially now. I mean, I think, 30, 40, 50 years ago, there was a real, there was a real stature to being a politician and there was a real stature to journalism, and the two kind of kept each other in check. I think now it's just a, MTV reality show.
Yeah, everything's a reality show now, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But so reality shows make billions of dollars, so maybe there's something.
That's true. So how do we use our skill set, and how do we help people who might be particularly anxious about stuff? It's all very well us here saying, hey, it's not going to affect you, don't worry. But if people are really stressed about it, what's some advice we can give them? What are some tools we can help them with? How can we give them some practical stuff in the next, little while to help them get through the next, probably the next month.
My favorite tools that are easy to just implement instantaneously, almost instantaneously. The zoom out is one. That's when you think about something and you remove fear and judgment from the topic and rethink about the same topic without fear and judgment. And as soon as you're triggered, because this takes a little bit of training, but as soon as you feel a little trigger, you stop and say, well, where's that rooted? Oh, that's fear. Oh, I'm judging this. And part of judgment, and this is very important when you're thinking about politics, is when we think that we need to save the world from itself.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in spirituality believe that we're going to heal the planet. But think about healing the planet. That's rooted in judgment. Really, if you think about it, that's saying you aren't living your life the way I think you should live your life. So I want to heal you so that you can live your life the way I think you should live your life. That's judgment.
Yeah, and the stream are very clear that the planet's not broken.
Yeah. The judgment of thinking that someone that is homeless or underemployed or on drugs or ill or whatever it is isn't living a reality that they created and isn't actually experiencing the human experience that soul is seeking to experience. It takes some spirituality to wrap your mind around this. Yeah. Because people that are not spiritual would have a very difficult time ever wrapping their head around that. Yet, notice they never solve the things they seek to solve. The people that want to heal the world and save the world from themselves, there's no doing that. We don't save the world. Just like when people start freaking out about the people that choose not to wear masks. And I just laugh, thinking, well, when the hell have you ever gotten everyone to agree on anything? And since when do people always do what's right in our eyes or what's, benevolent? People are not like that. We're all different. We all have different beliefs. And if you need that person to behave in a certain way to please you, you're always going to be disappointed. Yeah. Because you don't have that control. So when you're thinking about something like that, that's a good example. Somebody was telling me the other day about they were really upset because somebody wasn't wearing a mask in public. And I said, well, if you remove fear and judgment from that, what's the problem? Well, what if they you're taking fear out. We're not fearing COVID, right? We're not fearing catching something from that person. So if you're not fearing that and you're not judging them for their behavior, what is left for you to be upset about? Yeah. Because I believe that you getting yourself upset about that is more damaging to you than it is to them, and certainly more damaging to you than the fact that that person's choosing not to wear a mask. Yeah, removing the fear and judgment.
And look, inherently, we always hoped people as a whole would reflect our values and do what we think is important, but that is just a projection. There's that famous test. What is it? The shopping trolley test. At the supermarket where you have the supermarket trolleys. Putting that back in the place where it's supposed to go when you're at the car park doesn't cost you anything. Requires no effort from you and contribute to the greater good. Right. And so that's a classic test of, could people self-govern? Could people look after themselves without laws? And typically people say, well, no, because look how many shopping trolleys are strewn all over car parks, right? When it doesn't do anything. It's an extra minute out of your time, and it helps the general good to have them back in the place so the next person can use them. So the shopping cart test is often used as an example of people inherently don't do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the interesting thing is there's a store that Michael likes to shop at here. I don't know if you have it where you are, but it's called Aldi.
Oh, yeah.
It's a budget grocery store I think it's cool. It's a cool concept. It's not a luxury grocery store by any means, but it's a nice, clean market, and you can save some money by shopping there. And you have to pay a quarter, 25 cents in US dollars. You have to put a quarter in to get a shopping cart. They don't have a shopping cart problem. For a quarter, people return their shopping cart. And if there's one out in the parking lot, we'll always grab that to not pay the quarter and take it back and put it back in. And then I always leave it out so somebody else can grab it without having to spend their own quarter on it. But that system, you think it's an honor system, but it's really not. It's kind of a dishonor system because you have to pay a quarter to participate in it. But they don't have a shopping cart problem there. The shopping carts always get returned. So people are selfish. So if there's a little incentive, even if it's just a quarter, you're going to return your shopping cart. It's an interesting experiment, and it works.
It does. It's a great supermarket chain. German origin. They're huge in Germany. They're like the Walmart of Germany.
Yeah, I never shopped there until I met Michael, and he loves going there. And now
they're really good
going there too.
Yeah, the quality of their stuff is excellent.
Yeah, they have a lot of organic stuff, and they don't have everything because I like to cook, and they don't have everything. But I'm going down that path. So the number one tool at this time for navigating any life situation, but certainly navigating this election, if it's stressing you out, is do the exercise of removing fear and judgment. Because if you take fear out of it and understand that there's nothing to fear because you're creating your reality, and whatever the outcome of the election is does not have to impact you. And I can tell you personal stories about that, how I thought maybe it would, and I didn't allow it to, and it did not. And I'm 52 years old. I'm probably on the older spectrum of people watching.
That's not what you said on your bio.
Yeah. So anyway, and I've lived through this. You know, I told the story last night that when George W. Bush got elected or appointed president, however you look at it, in 2000, I was in a relationship with somebody that really thought that the world was ending. And he did target gay people in his campaign. He was a very anti-gay marriage campaign promise. And I just decided when that happened that, hey, I can be over there, you know, curl up crying about this if I want, which is not my nature, or I cannot give this any power whatsoever. And the 8 years that he was president for my life were some of the best years of my life. My relationship was pretty good during those years, actually, and my financial well-being was good, and my health got better during those years. And you know, ironically, you know, my life disrupted much more with Obama than it did, and it had nothing to do with Obama. It's just the cycle of my life, and so it had nothing to do with either president. You know, who's in power really did not impact me whatsoever. And then I also use the example of the recession that came around toward the end of Bush's presidency and the beginning of Obama's, that I decided I wasn't going to participate in. And it was a major recession. And I owned a home in Florida, and I worked in retail. If anyone should have been negatively impacted by it, it should have been me. It was not a fun time for me because part of my job was going around and firing people and downsizing. So that sucked. I hated doing that. But personally, my personal life and living circumstances got better and better and better year after year after year during the recession. Even though I owned a home in Florida, which was exactly the state that caused the whole meltdown because of the real estate crisis there, also caused the 2000 election meltdown, but you know, that's Florida.
Yeah, shots.
12 years of Florida was interesting. It is a very interesting place to live. It's just a melting pot. It's just a very interesting place. But you know, just not giving the power to it. And you do have the power to sit and shift your thinking. And if you work at doing this for a little while, pretty soon that starts to rewrite your subconscious mind, which really changes your vibration. The reason that vibrational changes don't occur is because you don't have a ritual and you don't have a practice that brings you back to these changes day after day after day after day. You can sit and say, after this broadcast, you can sit and meditate and say, I'm not going to give any power to this election. I'm going to remove fear and judgment and have that experience in the moment. But then what's going to happen tomorrow morning when you wake up? What's going to happen midday tomorrow? What's going to happen when the news comes back and it's not going the way that you wanted it to go? You've got to work these things out. You've got to build this muscle, if you will, mentally, so that your subconscious mind begins to run on autopilot that way. That's what Taya is. It gives you the tools to shift your thinking.
It's brainwashing?
Yes, it's positive brainwashing to your benefit. Definitely. And guess what? You do it yourself. We don't do it to you. Yeah. So the tools that we teach work, but they only work if you use them consistently. And at any time when you stop having your practice, you can regress. That's why we use the word detuning so often and not eradicating.
And that happens, you know, that even happens to you, David, right? Even after all these years, if you stop being on the practice regularly, you start to slip back. You know?
Yeah, definitely. And there's value in that.
Yeah.
Because there's value in all contrasts. So when I let myself slide a little bit and I manifest obstacles, those obstacles are always going to serve my expansion in some way. Yeah. And that's great. Yeah. But I don't want to stay in there too long. I don't like it down there. I like being up. I like continually exploring and learning more and more about this, finding new ways to comprehend it, new ways to teach it, new ways to share it. This whole thing with vibrational flow, this is relatively new. It's, it started out as the spiral. The spiral is still very relevant, but now getting into just thinking about vibrational flow and how vibrational flow creates our reality and serves to allow us to create a more perfect version of whatever we're trying to create. Because if we just create every single thing that we want, and every time you think of something, it just manifests, boom, 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 pretty soon we are overloaded with manifestations, one. And two,
it's
do
boring.
we really create the best version the first go round?
Yeah.
And since when does that ever happen? BMW makes great cars. So does Mercedes. They didn't start out, making the car that they make today. They over time have gotten better and better and better at building cars. Apple's a great example. I remember when Apple computers were these funky, weird things. And I know I've read enough about that company to know that they almost went out of business multiple times. And now they build fantastic products, but it took trial and error, iterations, more, the contrast allowed them to create a more perfect version of time and time and time and time again. And the same thing goes for our lives, every topic. When we get a little health crisis, that's the universe's way of saying, hey, you need to pay a little attention to your health. Maybe you shouldn't eat that way, so often. Maybe you need to exercise a little more, that sort of thing. I experience that for sure. Relationships, think about it. We get into relationships. In the beginning, the relationship, the vibe is very, very high. And then inevitably, vibrational flow is going to cause the vibration to drop in the relationship. And when that vibration drops, suddenly we start seeing flaws that we weren't seeing before. And then we have to decide if we are willing to push through that period and move ahead in spite of those flaws or not. And I think Hollywood marriages are a great example of two people getting together and not really needing to be together other than for publicity, and then realizing, oh, wait, you've got flaws. Okay, I'm going to go file for divorce. I mean, these marriages are insane. They get married and divorced within weeks sometimes, because the very first sign of the vibration dropping, they just run, because there's no economic reason for them to necessarily stay together. So that's true for all topics, that we go through this vibrational cycle, and it's never ending as long as we're in physical. And there's a general vibrational cycle, and then we have vibrational cycles on different topics, just like we have spirals on different topics. And some of these topics we're really good at, and some of these topics we keep hitting the wall until we learn some tools that allow us to tear down that block, which is the wall.
Yeah, and well, learning the tools and then applying the tools regularly, right? Anyone who's successful at anything has espoused that thing as their lifestyle, So elite athletes, that's all they do, world-class professionals, that's all they do. They really, really tightly focus their attention and they design their lifestyle around their passion or around their one thing. So the tools, I think sometimes what happens, especially in this environment, is people learn tools, have a little bit of success, jump onto the next thing, have a little bit of success, jump onto the next thing, have a little bit of success, jump onto the next thing, have a little bit of success. You posted that meme in the mastery group, which was so true, about at the beginning when you get into spirituality, you need the crystals and the this and the that and the shaman things and the tie-dye thing and the incense. And once you're advanced, you just really want a cup of coffee and a cigarette.
Yeah, that was a cool meme. It was so true for me.
Yeah, we should put that in the group.
All that window dressing is sort of beginner stuff, and then because it's all inside work.
Yeah.
It's all our relationship with ourselves, our inner self, our higher self, source, God, however you want to describe that. It's all internal stuff. And all of those external tools are sort of window dressing. And the only reason that I sort of make fun of them a little bit is because a lot of people get into these teachings, spirituality in general, and it's such a big tent that it gets confusing. They get frustrated. They start trying to apply universal law in their lives. It doesn't work perfectly right off the bat the way it does in the movies or in certain books, and they get frustrated. And I wanted to create a system of real world tools that allowed us to strip away all of that window dressing and just go inward and use our own given tools to raise our vibration and to understand vibrational flow and understand our spiral and understand how we create our reality and get, this never-ending flow of new information and new tools from the stream that we apply. And we have now mastery and boot camp and all these places where we see what works. And we know what works now. We have 3 years almost of history of this practice working to help people change their lives. And the people that somehow find a way to stay with it and make a ritual out of it, if you will, a lifestyle out of it, keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger results, whatever their version of that is. So that's why I teach this everywhere. And that's why I'm always talking about the success of boot camp, not just to get more people into boot camp, but to talk about how we can all start applying these things in our lives, boot camp or not, because I want to teach this to everybody that's ready for it. Yeah. Speaking of ready, we're already halfway through our time, and I want to bring the stream in. And I know Gillian has a question for the stream, because I got some clarity on something today, and I posted about it in the group. And so we can kind of bring the stream in and talk a little more about that topic.
Yeah, and look,
what you want to talk about.
We will. So, guys, please post your questions and we'll ask them. We just want to point out also, we weren't really, if you want crystals and incense and tie-dye T-shirts, eat your heart out. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't depend on those things for your spiritual connection.
Exactly. And this is a special edition. We are kind of talking about politics without getting too deep into politics. But if you have questions around the election, the result, what's going on, why it's so evenly split, ask away at all of that stuff of the stream and get some clarity on that. And if you have questions about other things, it's always okay. The stream never limits what you can ask about. We are only limited to my intellect and vocabulary, as always.
Yeah, so use simple words, please.
Yes.
Simple words and diagrams.
2 syllables max.
America.
I was educated in Louisiana public schools, so. No shade to Louisiana. I love Louisiana. I love that I grew up there.
And look, let's set an
interesting place to grow up.
Yeah, let's set an intention for a lively and profound interaction with them. And everyone who's listening, take some time now and meditate with us. And that collective energy will bring a deeper and more profound result.
We are here.
Thank you for joining us. We have a nice group today, and we'd like to ask you some questions, if we may.
We are here to answer your questions.
Thank you. It's a little bit of a special show today because there's been, such a large event that has gone on in the States yesterday, and so we're a little bit geared around asking some questions around politics. So, do you have any guidance to those of us listening, to those who might be anxious or worried about the result of this election?
We understand that you are referring to the U.S. presidential election, and we understand very much the vibrations that are swirling around on multiple topics regarding this, and we also are very aware of the high anxiety that has created the scenario and that is caused by the scenario. We will point out that You are watching universal creation at play in a very real way, in a very obvious way. You are seeing an example of what we refer to very often as polarity. That polarity is actually the driver of law of attraction. That your polarity in your lives specifically, you are very aware that polarity drives your vibration up and down. And we speak very often of the virtual vibrational spiral. And when you are up, you're creating things that you want because you are in high vibration, you are believing and trusting. And when you are down, you are creating obstacles, you're creating disruption. The disruption serves a purpose. And we have been teaching you this, that this disruption, these obstacles are placed by you vibrationally to allow you to create something new in the solution of, and thus create a more perfect version of your creation and create expansion for yourselves in this new creating. And the same holds true for the country of the United States. The same holds true for the government. Understand that the vibration of the United States is unique on your planet, in that it is a relatively new, what you might call experiment of a different type of society than what has come before. The term melting pot, where you have several different people from all over the world, different cultures, you're seeing more and more of that influx into the United States. The United States was designed to be that as a nation. And that has caused a convergence of vibration that creates expansion. But expansion is created via contrast. And in the result of the contrast, it is the discord that has been part of the development of the nation. In a relatively short number of years, there has been much discord. And you are all aware of the faster moving stream, if you will, the faster moving vibration of the United States. And that is why there is more creation there very often. And that is why there is also more strife there. And we understand that there are other places on your planet that have examples of this, certainly, and sometimes isolated, more extreme. But by and large, we are referring to a very large mass of land and a large population of people that is very diverse with very different ideas and enough freedom to exercise those ideas independently. And there's a lot of free thought, and that's where all the creativity comes from. But that is also where the backlash of all of that comes from. And as you are speeding up on planet Earth, we speak very often of your creation, of your ability to communicate globally has caused you to come together like never before and question like never before. That has caused a speeding up of flow, if you will. And in the speeding up of flow, you have created great disruption on your planet via your questioning of your institutions. You are questioning collectively of your religions, and you are seeing the fallout of that, if you will. You are seeing the result of that questioning. You are seeing your questioning of the government. You are seeing your questioning of the monarchy. You are seeing your questioning of your police forces. You are seeing your collective questioning of all of your institutions, Hollywood, all of it, bringing contrast, bringing transgressor energy to the surface to present itself for detuning. The detuning can happen in multiple ways, but you are seeing things bubble up, and the spinoff of all of that are your endless conspiracy theories that are often rooted in some degree of truth, but then taken to a different level for sensationalism to gain attention. But the attention has a positive and negative, as all things do. There is contrast on all topics. So when you begin questioning these things, you begin creating. We will not use the term destruction because we are not here to cause fear, because there is nothing to fear in any of this. But disruption is a good way for you to look at this. You are disrupting your government. Those of you that are in the United States are disrupting your process, and you are disrupting it via polarization. You have become so polarized, and notice that it is nearly split exactly down the middle. That is not a coincidence. That is occurring because of this idea that you all must pick one of two sides and that's it. And notice that you all say to one another that neither side really serves you, especially those of you that are on what we would refer to as a spiritual journey. Those of you that are zooming out, those of you that are detuning fear and judgment from your lives, you are coming to understand that none of it serves you, which is causing you to question, which is causing you to question your very need for it. And in the questioning the need for it, you are bringing disruptors on the scene as your politicians, disrupting in different ways, certainly. And you are seeing the evidence of this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. We are. I mean, someone mentioned something earlier which I found interesting. And they said, if energy is actually neutral until it's judged, then where is the reflection of what we're seeing playing it on TV? And I liked this concept of, is energy neutral? Or does it become positive and negative by our observation of it, our judgment of it?
Energy is flowing, and it is you perceive it as not expanding or dying off, but it is transmuting, and it is transmuting through vibrational flow. There is what you would judge as high vibration and low vibration from an egocentric human perspective. We do not judge it that way, but there is higher consciousness energy, and there is less than that, all the way down to what you might refer to as unconscious energy. David has recently made the connection between what many humans refer to as dark energy, what has been made into evil. The dark energy, what you may consider evil, the counter to that which we are, holds no consciousness. And this is something that is important for you to come around to understanding if you wish to fully comprehend what we are offering. High vibrational energy is our consciousness, is pure love, is expansive in nature, wants very much for expansion. And you are all part of this. Lower vibrational energy is energy void of consciousness. And it is in all things in energetic realm, there is a gray space in between all of that. There is the core of source, there is lower consciousness, and there is all the way down to no consciousness, and it is all energy. But the energy void of consciousness is sort of a tail, vibrational dust, if you will. It's sort of a drag that keeps things in balance in the energetic realm. That is our version of polarity, which is not nearly as pronounced as physical's version of polarity. This lower consciousness energy, when physical beings tap into this, and you all do in vibrational flow, this lower vibrational energy only brings your vibration down. It brings your energy down. The evil, the darkness, the negative judgment of it is all you're doing. The things that you consider evil acts, the acts rooted in judgment and fear, when you are harming one another intentionally, that is a product of lower vibrational energy, certainly, but it is the momentum gained in your focusing on the lower vibrational energy. The negative feelings turned outward, and ultimately the negative feelings turned outward will naturally turn inward. And this is when you begin harming other people and harming yourselves. And you all have little tastes of this. You all go down in vibration, and you get into an argument with someone that you care about very much, and you say things that you say you do not mean. That's a little taste of that. That is certainly very different than taking their life, certainly.
Yeah.
But it is all the same path with varying degrees of momentum. So when you are experiencing something and judging it as negative, you are creating that, what you might call dark energy for yourselves in the judgment of it as negative, whether it is something that's going on in your life or something that is external. To come back to the topic of politics, when you are viewing the one that you disagree with more and judging their actions as negative and focusing on that, you are bringing aspects of that into your reality. And not only are you doing that, you are fueling that which you do not want. We shared with David earlier that the current president of the United States is a glowing example of utilization of law of attraction, and one that understands that the gray area is of no service. The aligning with those who share common beliefs and the alienating of everyone else holds great power. Because when you're doing that, everyone is focused on you, positively and negatively.
And in an extreme way.
Positively and negatively, you are in power. And regardless of the outcome of any election, you will stay in power. Because you have been given the power.
By the focus of the attention.
Indeed.
Yeah. It's fascinating and wonderful glimpse into the nature of positive and negative energy. I'm sure there's a whole episode we could spend on.
There's an entire education of law of attraction and vibrational flow and polarity playing out before you in the United States election, certainly, and regardless of the outcome. And this is why we very much wanted to start out with, regardless of the outcome, you are still creating your bubble of reality. In fact, you are in charge of your bubble of reality. You are creating it, even if you were allowing that result to negatively impact you in some way. You are the one that's allowing it. When you're first hearing these words, we understand that many of you are taught to react by pushing back on them, by saying to us that you would have never asked for what you're getting, and it's not fair, and that others are more privileged than you, and things of this nature. We are here to tell you that that's not true. And the main reason that we are flowing through David in this way, here telling you that that's not true, is so that you can claim your power by understanding that. Because when you come to accept and understand that, then you can set about being more intentional with creating a reality that is more pleasing to you.
Yeah.
That is our purpose in this interaction, and all interactions via David.
I love that. Creating a reality that is more pleasing to you. It's a beautiful goal for life. You mentioned, and people are concerned if there is a disruption of the institutions and if there is a disruption of governments and things, is everything, the first fear is, oh my goodness, everything's going to fall apart. There've been some questions in here. What's going to happen? How's it going to work out? How's it going to be? Can you just reassure us that this questioning and challenging is a natural, normal part of evolution, or it's a natural, normal part of the flow? Is it?
It is the process of creation, and you have access to some history books of societies that have considered to have fallen, but they indeed did not fall. They transitioned, and there were always beings who thrived through the transition. And certainly there were beings that did not thrive through the transition. As eternal strands of soul consciousness, there is no getting that wrong. You are all here to have your experience. This is why we guide you away from judging the things that you fear most that are occurring to others, because you are judging the experience of another that you are not part of. But for yourselves, we very much want you to understand that the experience that you have through any disruption, through any transition, is your manifestation. And it can be a glorious transition and glorious journey. And we do not mean transition out of physical either. Speaking specifically of your thriving as a physical being, regardless of what's going on to even the majority around you. And we understand that from your ego, that sounds selfish. And that from your ego, you very much want to help your fellow humans. That is not a bad thing. But we are here to tell you that the idea of benevolence is often misguided, and that belief that you have to take your vibration down and meet them at the level that they are operating at in order to help them. When you get down to that level where they are operating, when they are in trouble, you are now in trouble. It is like the one that tries to help the drowning person without the skills and ends up being drowned themselves. And that is reality in your world. The saying on your aircraft of put your own mask on first before you attempt to help someone else, so that you have access to oxygen. Apply that to everything. Understand that when you remove fear and judgment and stand in allowing of your fellow human to have their unique experience, even if you don't understand it, and that your job is to raise your vibration and manifest your well-being first, and that your very well-being reverberating out vibrationally into the universe is actually doing more to help your fellow human than you're trying to lower your vibration and get in a physical sense of trying to assist someone, or trying to assist someone via politics, thinking that your election of one or the other is going to save the world. Yet notice that it hasn't. Notice that it does not. Notice that the needle does not move much, because it's a machine, and you're all coming to question the machine. And your questioning of the machine is causing the disruption. The disruption is causing polarity to be even more pronounced than ever. In this time of awakening, notice how polarized this topic is. Notice how polarized you've all become. And understand that your well-being is not in either extreme. Your well-being is always going to be in the gray matter in between.
Yeah. And the work for us is to decide how we can be the best versions of ourselves and focus on being that every day.
And understand that very often your desire to save the world, and your desire to save others from themselves, and your even desire to save your animals, all of that is rooted in your ego. Because if you balance the ego with your soul consciousness, the eternal part of you, the eternal part of you understands that every single being on your planet is here having its own unique experience in physical, and being in suffering from your point of view is the path of that being that has been manifested, and there is value in that path for that being. Your judgment of it is something that you do not want for you, therefore you do not want it for them, is the thing that drags your vibration down, trying to stop that. Your recorded history is full of scenarios of people trying to save humanity from itself and dying in the process. And yet humanity carries on regardless. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, your eternal being carries on regardless of the outcome of your physical being, regardless of the experience. And it is our promise to you that you return to a non-physical state and you reflect back, if you will, on the lifetime that you've just completed. We are speaking in linear terms. That makes sense to you. And you reflect back regardless of how you operated that life, regardless of amount of time, amount of wealth, amount of health, amount of sanity, even from your judgment. There was something offered for you that fulfilled exactly why you came. And that is true for every single being on your planet, including the pigs in the slaughterhouse, including the junkie dying in the gutter. We are not guiding you to want to do better. We are guiding you not to take your vibration down and being so caught up in worrying about the experience of other beings. Every being is having the experience that it came here to have, regardless of your judgment of it.
Beautiful. And if you find yourself drawn to these words, then the key takeaway is decide what your preference is for the experience you want to have, and focus on raising your vibrational state to encourage that experience to unfold.
Indeed.
And that the machine, while it's rattling, the political machine is not broken. And even if it was to break, everyone would be fine anyway.
It is being disrupted via your questioning of it, but the disruption will give way to something that is more in alignment with your new system of beliefs. And your new system of beliefs is that you as a planet, as a society, specifically the United States society, is coming to understand that you create your own reality. Is coming to understand like never before in the history of humanity that the institutions of control served a purpose for a time, but are no longer needed. And that is why they are being questioned. The questioning is causing the disruption. The disruption will cause the seemingly very organic transition to something else. And the something else is up to all of you. We are not here delivering the something else, because the something else, the next new creation, the next thing, how is this going to turn out, as you all like to ask, that is your creation. That is your purpose in coming to physical. That is why we do not come here and begin predicting your future for you. You are creating your future. And while everything that has ever happened and everything that is ever going to happen is happening simultaneously in our realm, there is a never-ending process of expansion that is being created, and you're experiencing a physical. So it is always in flux. Though it is not linear time, it is not static. And that is a point we would very much like to get across to all of you, understanding that you are in control of the expansion. The what next is up. What is next is up to you, and you're in charge of what we call your bubble of reality. But understand that your bubble of reality, you've all seen the soap that causes bubbles, and suddenly the bubbles begin to merge together into one bigger bubble. Mm. That is your independent nature as well. You are experiencing an independent bubble of reality that you are creating every aspect of, via your focus, via your perspective, your perception of everything that is occurring around you and everything that has occurred to you. But that bubble is contributing to the creation of a bigger bubble. The bigger bubble of your community, the bigger bubble of your country, the bigger bubble of your planet, the bigger bubble of humanity on your planet. The bigger bubble that reverberates out into infinity. And in your little bubble of perception is a building block of all of that. Mm. And your expanding of your bubble through new creation, through overcoming obstacles, is exactly what is expanding your bubble and contributing to the expansion of the entire bubble. So when negative things come your way, when you are having struggle and challenges in your lives, understand that they are challenges and struggles because of your negative judgment of them. We are very much here to guide you to think of them very differently, to think of those disruptions as things that you have manifested for your expansion, for your creation of a solution to, for your evolution away from. And in doing that, you are expanding your being. And expanding your being contributes to the expansion of the entire universe, which we are part of. We are looking to you for our expansion. You refer to us as source. You refer to us as original thought, and you are not wrong. However, the true creators, while we are source, you are the creators, because you are expressing your consciousness in physical environments. And in physical environments, you are experiencing contrast, positive and negative, always. The time that you solve your contrast, the time that you reach utopia, will be the time of destruction for that physical environment. And that does occur. But the destruction of that physical environment always gives way to a higher vibrational version of something else. So there is no destroying that which you are. There is no destroying your being. That is why we guide all of you to lighten up about your lives here on planet Earth. Because your physical experiences are infinite. Mm-hmm. Infinite. There may be a perception or a dream of coming and living X number of existences and then having no more. But that is not true. There is coming and having X number of existences and then morphing to something greater. And then morphing to something greater occurs through experiencing and solving and expanding through contrast. This is why you do not want to end the contrast that comes into your lives. Certainly, your focus on lower vibrational thought will bring additional contrast into your lives. It is all born of the same seed, the same root, if you will. But you have expanded it by focusing on it, by fearing it, by complaining about it, by getting on Facebook and announcing it to the world, and looking for compassion from others to soothe your disconnection from source. There will never be enough of that, ever, for you. And the more you rely on that, the more you're going to manifest to create that for yourselves. And that does not have to be. When you lighten up about all of this and you stop judging the negative as negative and understand its vibrational flow up and down, and start embracing your obstacles. Imagine embracing when you lose your employment. Imagine embracing losing your health care. Imagine embracing losing your relationship. Imagine embracing all of it for the ride that it is. This is a very zoomed out approach for many of you, and it's very new information. And at face value, you push back because you're taught to fear. You're taught to worry. You're taught to not want those things to happen to you. And look at how much you hold yourselves away from in your avoidance of those things. Look at the joy. Look at the expansion. Look at the new journeys and the businesses and relationships and things that you hold yourselves away from because you've built that never again wall, because you got burned one time and your ego is trying to hold you away from future pain. Though the pain only existed because you judged it as bad. Think about that.
Oh, such beautiful words. Thank you. And I know they're resonating strongly with people who are watching today. So thank you for your time. We are out of time, actually. Do you have any final words for us? It's been so, as intended, it's been a deep and profound connection. Thank you.
The things that we offer, if you are hearing these words for the first time, can be shocking because they're very opposite of how you were taught to operate in physical. You were taught to work hard and obey and fear, and there are dire consequences for you if you do not do X, Y, Z. But that is not true. And you do have evidence all around you of miracles. And in fact, a miracle is always one thought away for all of you. Understand that anything that you create, any scenario that you create for yourself, as soon as you create that thought, it exists. And it's up to you to not doubt or fear or worry or become impatient with that thought coming to full fruition. And when you do that, it will. But very often, you create that thought in high vibration. Vibrational flow is going to come around because of polarity. Take your vibration down, and you're going to revisit that thought, that creation. And you're going to wonder where it is, what's wrong with you, why it's not happening. That is why these things that you want so much do not come. Understand that this process of creation works for every single thing in your life, every single aspect. That which you call the law of attraction is the same as gravity. It is always happening. You are attracting every next thought, every next mood, every next experience. You are attracting all of it. That might sound ridiculous if you've never heard that before. Or if you've heard that and you've tried to manifest something intentionally, something big, and it didn't come, you write it off as not real. Yet you see people around you thriving. You see people around you. Notice those at the top of your economy thrive regardless of who the president is in the United States. Those at the top of your economy thrive regardless of how your economy goes. They thrive regardless of what's going on in their industry. They find a way to the top no matter what.
They do.
We are using finance, but this works on every single topic. We use finance because it is so integral to your being in your physical environment. And many of you believe that manifesting money and material things is the path to all happiness. On that note, we will share with you that it indeed is not. David was interacting with one today on Facebook that was saying, as soon as she has a relationship and better health and more money, she's finally going to be happy. and it was glaring to all others in the group that she's not understanding that she's got to find the happy first. And finding the happy first will allow all of those other things to materialize. The not needing the money, the not needing the health improvement, the not needing the relationship, the no longer judging sickness and loneliness and poverty as bad and evil and awful and terrible. Taking the judgment out of it, taking the fear of it away, appreciating what is, even if what is got you bound up in having none of the things that you want. finding a spark of light. Understand that you can be shrouded in darkness, and all you need is that little pin dot of light, and you focus on that light, and it expands and expands and expands. But if you are focusing on all the darkness that's around you, that's all you're ever going to see. The light is there for expansion via your focus upon it. Always, always, always. That is our promise to you. We will leave you with that, with much love. That's all we have.
Namaste. Wow. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you. Sorry, Spirit of Trees, you missed some great messages. Thank you, everyone. The recording, I think, was pretty clear for those who had buffering issues. So hopefully we will put this up on YouTube and in the group, and you'll be able to see it. It's a fantastic interaction, beautiful interaction, lots of deep wisdom and knowledge. Touched on a few topics that we will spend hours diving down. Michelle, I'm so happy your brother got to see this, and I hope it was beneficial for him. Deborah, I hope you found some peace and wisdom, and I can assure you America's not going to be communist anytime soon. Need to ask the stream that one. Everyone else who is there, thank you for your great questions. Spirit of the Trees, always wonderful to have you here. Patty, great. Greg, everyone, thank you. Sorry we didn't get to all the questions, but I think I just wanted to let them flow. There was such great guidance and great wisdom in their words.
It must have gone deep, because I feel like I've been gone for 3 days.
It was, man, as intended, it was a profound and enlightening interaction.
Good.
So
I can't wait to come back and watch it.
Yeah,
Did they predict who's going to win the election?
They told us not to worry about the election.
I'm kidding.
They said there's much more important things we should be worried about and focused on.
If you're into gambling, let's always talk to the stream.
Yeah. And to everyone still listening, it's so true. Just focus on being happy. Find the smallest thing you can to be happy about and practice that. Practice being joyful and watch, and you don't need to do anything else.
There's always something, but you have to look. When you're really, really down, I get that. I know exactly what you're talking about. When you're really, really down, you got to find that one little thing, and then you got to build from there. But if you focus on all the bad stuff, you're just going to get more and more of that. And we have these experiments in our lives, but sometimes it's hard to see it in our own lives because we're in it all the time. But man, you can really see it in your relatives. We have the holidays coming up. Pay attention to your extended family if you get to see them with COVID, or your coworkers. Just pay attention to how people are and how their lives are going in relation to how they speak. Words are thoughts, and thoughts are very powerful things. Very, very powerful things.
Absolutely. Michelle, a final word for your brother. He didn't stumble across this by accident, right? There are no accidents, and I'm sure I hope his soul feels a bit enlightened, because it's brought him to a message that perhaps he needed to hear.
Very good.
Yeah. Wonderful, guys. Thank you so much, David. Thank you. I love you. Amazing interaction. I'm so grateful. I could do it from up here in Hong Kong. A few more days of quarantine, and then I'm out.
Yeah, I appreciate you got up super early to be on with us, because it's
that's okay.
early in the morning there, right?
Yeah, it's a little later now, but it's definitely still before noon.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like 5 a.m. or something like that you were getting up to.
Yeah. No, that's our mastery session is going to be early. But now I've realized it's daylight savings, so I manifested an extra hour's sleep. So
yeah, that's not so bad. That's
how I roll.
So Matt, thank you for jumping on from Hong Kong to do this, and thank you all for watching. Namaste, everyone.
Namaste.